Hey, did you know that prostitution was legal in Panama? I didn't. I found that out through walking around my neighborhood and doing some digging. There are some other things I've discovered also that surprise me about this beautiful country. So, let's chat. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to SWRA, Single Women Retiring Abroad. I so enjoy our weekly chats, and I thank you for tuning in again. My name is Maggie. I am your host, and it's always a pleasure for me to connect with you, my viewership, my friends. I call you friends now. So today, I feel like I'm going to be gossiping a little bit, even though I'm not a gossip. You guys know how much I love Panama. But there were things that I discovered, a few things, just like the stuff that I talk about, you may not like, the stuff that excite me, but there were some shockers. And legalized prostitution was one of them. I live in a very nice neighborhood. But when I start walking towards the subway, or I take a trip to some other areas, I notice the what we call working ladies in the corners. And I was like, okay. And then right next to them, I would see a couple of cops just milling around. And I'm like, this must be okay. So I started doing some digging and realized that indeed prostitution is legal in Panama. And the sex workers are encouraged to register and carry ID. But it did say to my research that the majority of them are not registered. So I started thinking, how is that possible in the country where you have the majority of the population calling themselves Catholic or Christians? That I feel like it's a little bit of a contradiction. But why should I think that? Most countries where Catholicism or Christianity was brought by, you know, those people, the sin cohabits with the morality, right? So that shouldn't surprise me. But what I found interesting is that I read that when they were building the canal in the early 1900s, they brought women from other countries to come and entertain the canal workers. So that established that idea that, it's okay to have these workers around. And the Panamanian government felt that it kind of shielded their own women population. So it's rampant. And of course, I like the fact that it's regulated and hopefully they get tested. Because, I know as a healthcare professional, I worry about HIV and other STI, sexually transmitted infections. We used to call those STD. Now, the correct term is STI. So when I saw these people hanging around, I was like shocked. And then one day there was one in the corner right in front of my building. And I have to tell you this little story. I'm going to crack some jokes. I was going to the fish market, which is not too far from where I live. And I decided to go early. You heard me say, go early. The early bird gets the worm. You get the best variety, and it's not so hot. So there's so many reasons why I want to get there early. And I was wearing a workout outfit, meaning I was wearing tight black pants and maybe a tight top. And I was approaching a certain corner, and there were two people, workers, hanging there. And then I was going to cross, and I saw on the corner of my eye this older man coming with a car, and he's slowing down. And I'm like, okay, he's slowing down to let me pass. Then he rolls down his window, and I was like, uh-oh, I think he thinks I'm one of those workers. I started working real fast, and he yelled something I didn't hear, but I'm thinking in my mind, he's probably asking me, come on, honey, how much per hour? And I'm like, you didn't see the gray hairs? I'm old. You don't want what I have. You don't want it. It's interesting, when I'm walking, because again, I live in a nice area, but the closest metro, which I use quite a lot, it's in that area. And I usually have to go one street, two streets over so I can avoid the activity. And there is a certain restaurant that is close to the metro entrance where I can see that they hang out there. So all those also through my research, I find out there is something called a red light district, which, for somebody like me who is what behind the ears, I don't know what that means. But apparently that's where the business is done in that particular area. And when I Googled it, it says Bay Vista is the area for the activity, right? Well, I live in Bay Vista. I didn't know that. But also they said Marbella and somewhere in Oberrio, which is kind of like the financial district, the business district. You have business people coming into town. Some of them are going to want that kind of activity and service. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is because that's not what this video is about. But if you're interested in finding where the red light district is, I know you're going to find out, right? And of course, it's women coming from other countries, people who are maybe poor and want to make a quick buck. Well, in our own country, the US, we have that too. College kids stripping to make money to pay for college. I am not trying to, what's the word, criticize, I'd rather it be regulated, to tell you the truth. At least, hopefully, they get tested. That's my take on it. But I was one of the people who comment on my videos, an older man. He said he was accosted somewhere in El Cangrejo by a couple of ladies offering their services. So, if you're a tourist, you male, they probably assume if you're working late at night that you are seeking services. But anyway, I say this to tell you I was shocked because the conservative nature and culture of Panama is one of the things that attracts me to Panama, that people they dress conservatively, there is respect for family and authority. I love all that. But right with it is legalized prostitution. But anyway, I thought that was really a shocker for me. It shouldn't be to you, maybe, but to me it was. So that was interesting. The other thing that really shocks me about Panama is watching all these babies in those cars on restraints. I have not seen any babies in a car seat here. Maybe there are, but in my area, and because I deal with a lot of the very average people on the bus, on the metro, I don't see these babies being restrained. And I'm shocked. The first time I saw somebody in the street with the baby in their lap and the baby was standing, and I'm like, I come from a culture, it's like, if you don't put your baby in the car seat, you're going to get a ticket. That was a shocker, but that is rampant here. The other thing that really surprised me about Panama is the heavy police presence. Now, let me say, they are not threatening. Some people I've read saying that they're not very friendly. I've only encountered friendly one, or just those who don't look threatening. Maybe they're not smiling at me, but they're not putting the fear of God in me. Like when I saw a cop where I come from, and it's like your heart, my daughter, poor thing. She said, if I see a cop behind me, I start hyperventilating. This is the thing, the trauma that we as African Americans carry around with us. You guys know that. But they are everywhere. In that corner, they're there with their bikes, just on their phones. It's chilling. If you go to any metro station, chances are you're going to see them around. And in addition, they'll stop random people and ask for their cedula, for their ID. Now, I've come across really close to several of them, and I'm like, you got my cedula? I'll show it to you. But they've never asked me. So they're not asking women. I don't know. Women could be up to no good too. So, but they always, I've seen them stop the men. And also, if you're traveling on a bus going to Boquete or to El Valle or someplace, chances are you're going to be stopped. You're going to see a police checkpoint and they're going to ask for everybody's IDs. and they have taken people off those buses. Panama is becoming, like with what's going on now, the president is asking for curfew in a couple of areas where they have a lot of crime going on. So they're trying to get a handle on things. But the police stay busy here between road accidents and drug seizures and gang violence, and it's becoming it's probably always been there, but I'm becoming a little bit more aware of it. Okay. So, as single ladies, we need to be careful as to where we go and when we visit certain areas, right? So, the police presence is very prominent, it's very visible here. I remember feeling the same way in Rwanda, except in Rwanda, when they stopped you, they had the big bazookas or whatever, big guns. That was my first, when I got out of the airport in that taxi, it's a whole different story. Yeah, that was my first contact with the police. So heavy police presence was a shocker. You know, you're from America, you don't see that. Now, if somebody is having a mental health crisis, yeah, you see 15 police cars come, don't we? But it's not like they just regulating, doing traffic stops, checking driver's licenses, your IDs. They're very chill here. And I've even waved at a couple of policemen and they wave back. I've taken pictures with them. I would never do that at home. But anyway. The other thing that is, please, if you're enjoying this conversation, just stop what you're doing and click, like Sandra said, click all the little buttons at the bottom. Like, share, subscribe, and the bell. All right. I appreciate it. All right. We're on our way to 4,000. Come on, you guys. I need you. Okay. We can do this. Traffic and pedestrian accidents. Okay. The city is real busy. There are a lot of cars. There are a lot of cabs. I have told you I prefer not to use a cab because they drive crazy. And in my case, they never know where my building is. I always have to tell them where it is, even if they're on the same road. It's insane. But, and I heard someone else say that there is no right of way here in Panama for you as a pedestrian. Peaton, they call it. So when you're trying to cross a road, always look for a crosswalk, with the white lines. And don't just take off. When you see cars coming, I usually wait and I make eye contact with that driver. And a lot of time they will flash their lights like when your Uber comes, and that means they're letting you go. So I make eye contact and I say, thank you, gracias. And then I go because people get hit all the time. What do they call that in the US? Jaywalking or something? You don't just take off in front of a car and expect that they're going to give you the right of way. That does not exist. And I think one of the ladies in the group said, it's a Jamaica. So don't come here, expect to be treated again like you're special. You're not. Okay. So if you want to be safe, and especially because people like me who are in those streets every day, just keep in mind those cars have the right of way and you don't. And I subscribe to Trafico Panama, which is on Instagram, and they show you how some of these accidents happen. And it's insane. People just take off in the middle of the street and start crossing, and boom, they get hit, right? And the delivery drivers who drive these little mopeds that are weaving out of traffic, they get hit too. Of course, it's no surprise. They had a bad accident this past weekend. We do have a lot of accidents. There's a lot of construction going on major highway, Inter-American Highway, I think. Don't quote me on that. But, they had a big truck that it can cause a chain reaction. And again, I mentioned that before. The police will say it's because they're distracted, cell phone. They don't obey the speed limit, even in this rainy season in the rain. And some of the accident, like somebody beat the traffic, they don't obey the traffic laws because you see somebody bearing down a big road and they don't stop. They don't stop. I don't understand. That's why I'm like, if I can get away with not having a car, I probably won't. But I'm no safer in the streets because if I don't obey that crosswalk and I just pay attention when I'm crossing the road, I might be at risk too. So that was a shocker. You're not special. Be careful when you're crossing the road. The other thing that really was a shocker to me when I first came to Panama was the number of high rises. And I'm like, Panama is a small country, and I forgot the numbers that I gave you before. It's so many kilometers long and so many wide. It's a stretch of land. It's not that big. But for this city to have that many high rises was a shocker. And that's why people think they're in Miami. It reminds them of Miami or Dubai, but we have a lot of high rises here. I don't know if it's good or bad because I'm in one of them. And I said before, I would never live in a high rise apartment. Like I said, never say never. So that was surprising. But that's what makes Panama unique, right? So even though I'm bringing these shocking discoveries to you, I still love Panama. There is nothing I would discover about this country that I have not discovered yet that would make me say, oh, that's it. I'm going to pack up and go home. No, you guys are stuck with me. I'm here. Of course, I mind my own business. I don't get into people's business, get into politics. I don't have an opinion about things. I'm just saying what I see. Okay. So that was one. The other one that really surprises me in a good way is what we call metro culture in Panama. Panama is probably the only country, I think, in Central and South America with a metro line. And we have two lines and we have two under construction. So that puts Panama, in a higher standing among the other countries, I'm sorry to say, and I love it. But there is a culture about the metro in Panama. And the metro includes the buses and the train, right? Okay. When you buy a car, you can use it on both. Metro culture says no eating or drinking or smoking anywhere at a bus station, at a metro station, at the bus terminal, and near the racks where the trains come. You're not going to see people with snacks, drinks. You do not see that. When I see somebody in line drinking or eating, it's a rarity. Like yesterday, I was waiting for a line and I was munching on some peanuts. I'm sure somebody looked at me because that is not something that you see. And then when you are on the bus or on the metro, they have PA messages that remind you it is prohibited to eat, drink, or smoke anywhere around the metro. I love it. The other thing that is part of the metro culture, and they remind you again in the PA system, is that adults, anyone with a disability, children, pregnant women deserve priority seating. On the metro, they don't have, some metro lines have like designated seating. They do that on the buses. But then so many times I walk on, it's busy. Somebody will say, Senora, they get up, whether it's a man or a woman, and let me sit. And I was like, gracias. You feel, I don't know, appreciated as an old person with those gray hair, right? So that is metro culture. And they also have messages I've noticed recently about loitering. That means don't throw your trash anywhere. The metro stations are spotless. Spotless. So I like that for Panama. Metro culture, not just the cleaning, it was like the whole, concept of transportation should be done in a safe, respectful manner. But when you're traveling on these other buses going to El Valle and you're going out of the city, yes, we eat and drink on those buses. And even they will stop at certain junctures and somebody selling that stuff would come onto the bus and say, oh, and at the time you're like, oh yeah, I'm thirsty, give me a drink. Oh, I'll have a bag of plantain chips, which I always do. Me and plantain, if you didn't know that, we're cousins, okay? We're sisters or cousins because plantain, I don't care what anybody says, I'm having them. Okay, so metro culture is a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. So we talked about prostitution, talk about unrestrained babies. We talk about the police presence. We talk about the number of high rises in the city. And the last one, and again, mea culpa, I am not saying anything, negative about Panama. Panama, te amo, mwah, mwah. But the rice consumption in Panama was a shock. Listen, guys, we from Caribbean, we eat rice, but the level of how much rice we eat here is insane. Breakfast. See, I'm not a breakfast person. I just can't put food in my mouth like at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. I just don't do that. And I don't care what they say. Breakfast is the best, most important meal of the day. I don't eat breakfast usually. So, like right now, it's about 10 or 11. I just had some pineapple pieces. If I'm hungry, I'll do something like that. But like eggs and oatmeal and all kind of stuff for breakfast, even when I was at home, I didn't. You go to those little fundas, 8 o'clock in the morning, the workers are sitting there. And I try not to look too closely, but it's like there's fried chicken, they have beans, they have rice. And I'm like, what time is it? Is it lunch or is it breakfast? And then the rice. I think the amount of rice, I read that the country that eats the most rice per capita per person was Madagascar because they grow a lot of rice. And somebody yesterday in my live was saying, that's why I love rice. I have Madagascar ancestry. But they eat a lot of rice in Panama. And el arroz blanco, that white rice, that arroz con pollo, the rice with chicken, oh my God, it's a lot. One day I was in El Valle and I went to a restaurant and a worker came in and I think they had a special or something. And I was like, my eyes were bulging. He was Panamanians are not really tall, but he was stocky. And I was looking and I was like, and then the guy who served it was like, yeah, it was around. And then, of course, chicken comes a close second. But anyway, the amount, I think I read is like 152 pounds a year per person here in Panama. And, in most countries, developing countries, poor countries, rice is, the most eaten type of food because it's usually more affordable and it fills the belly. So I get it. I get it. But that's why we also have a lot of diabetes here. People don't realize. And I was saying that in my live yesterday. Yeah, when you're young, you can eat a lot of rice, a lot of stuff. But as you get older, you really should pull back a little bit. But, sometimes I get flack for that. It's like, I'm like, okay, eat your rice. It's your rice. And this lady yesterday said, I am not giving up my rice. I said, I am not saying to give it up. You just need to pull back a little bit. And last year when I was here, they had some announcement, even in the news, you have nutritionists talking about working with the schools and the families to kind of tell them you have alternatives that you can use instead of just making rice the main, food on your plate. You can, increase vegetables, have some yuca and some, other types of veggies and beans, more beans, right? But I don't see that so much anymore. And the government is having some programs where they go into the communities and allow the residents to buy rice at a good price, very low. And let me tell you, they stand in line for hours just to get like bags of rice. So rice is still so prominent, but my God, it's a lot of it. I don't know. I hope they would do a little bit more in terms of telling people there are other sources that they can use. And they use, the indigenous people use a lot of corn too. A lot of, your tamales and your, what do they call that? Eh, not fajitas, but you do the round thing. They press it and then they fill it with meat and other thing. So corn is good too, but it tends to raise your blood sugar. I'm sorry, I'm kind of the bearer of bad news, but it is something that we see in developing countries. But to me, that amount of rice, especially the heavy breakfast, was, and I like, really? At 8 a.m., you're having this much, and then you're going to have this much for lunch and this much for dinner? Whoo, that's a lot. But anyway, it is not said as a critique, it's just the reality of what just popped. It's like, wow. But anyway, I thought this video was a bit of a fun one because I have 2 other videos I'm working on. I'm still waiting. They're a little bit more serious. You know me, I have to crack jokes. But I'm still waiting on some more information because I never want to come here and act like an expert, but I definitely want to have some sources for my information. So the information about the prostitution I found online, it's available for anybody to check it out. So if you want to know where the red light district is, I'm sure you're going to find it. And yes, it is legal here. And yes, we have a country that is 48 to 50% Catholic and about another 35% evangelical. So it's heavy Christianity focused. Good or bad, because we have stuff happening because of Christianity in our communities, and in Africa, we all know what happened, what we inherited from them bringing Christ to us. But anyway, this is not what I'm trying to say. But I just found that it was a little bit of a contradiction, but it is what it is. It is what it is. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully it's a little bit less, it's not as long as my previous 2 videos. And I hope you enjoyed it. Yes, I cracked myself up. And I know a lot of you enjoy that, but so I will talk to you next week. I'll keep posting shorter videos about life in Panama, and that's all I got for you. So hope you enjoy it. You continue to enjoy it. Please remember to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. You guys are on your way to helping me increasing that subscription number, and I appreciate it. So I think I'm looking at, again, I don't like to jinx it, but I have a date in mind. My last date for the 3,000, we did it 2 days before the day I was considering. So, all right. So I will talk to you next week. God loves you. I love you. Au revoir. À la prochaine. Bonne journée. Bye. Did you know that Panama City does not have a direct beach access, even though it's surrounded by water? So the first place we go that is closest to the city is Taboga Island. It's a mere 30-minute ferry ride from the Amador Causeway to the island. It is quaint, it's cute, it's beautiful, it's very colorful, and you usually end up spending a really nice leisurely day. So enjoying family and friends, discovering Panama with Maggie. I was putting my thumb on this. This is the laptop. People do bloopers. I don't know how to do that. I think I would mess up. Bye.